So for unit 6, that was our exponential and logarithmic unit. Exponential is a swoop. Logarithmic is a swoop that's turned on its side. So it says end behavior for this one. Let's go ahead and set it up. We're going to have limit x goes to negative infinity f of x. Limit x goes to positive infinity f of x. Now you've done even more limits, but that's the way we wrote it all year. Just trying to get you used to that so that when you see the limits at the end, it's like you've seen that before. So what I would do is draw a picture. If you're capable, like some people can do this in their imagination, I have to draw it. This graph shifted down how much? 4. So it would go down 4, and that's where your asymptote is going to be. And then you don't need it to be a great picture. It's not like you're creating the Mona Lisa here. It's just like a quick sketch. It's either going to go up or it's going to go down. And in this case, I know it's going to be decreasing. It's going to go down. What about the equation tells me it's going the opposite way? There's a negative. All right, and then you can just use that picture to answer the question. Where is the left arrow pointing? Positive infinity. And where's the right arrow pointing? -4. Cool. Vertical asymptote, it's going to be at 0 unless it shifted left or right. Okay, so this one shifted right how much? 7. So it'll be x equals 7. So vertical asymptote would be 0 unless it got shifted away. These were the Quizlet things that we did. Do you remember that? We did like a million times. This is 2 to what power gives you 1/8? What is it? -3. 2 cubed is 8, but why is it -3? Because it's flipped. All right, how about this one? 3 to what power gives you 1? 0. Anything to the 0 power gives you 1. All right, expanding these, you're going to take the exponent and put it out front. So you're going to get 6 log of a plus, and then for b, what is your exponent for a square root? 1/2. Good. So it'll be 1/2 log b minus, and why am I going to do minus for the last one? So division, perfect, and it'll be 5 log c. That's all that is. You're not even actually doing a problem. You're just rewriting it in a different format. And again, it'll be multiple choice. Okay, so that was unit 6. We survived. Unit 7, that was all of our law of sines, law of cosine stuff. So most of that's going to end up on the calculator part that we'll get to at the end. But I threw one on here with a right triangle. So a is 6, c is 9, find b. You can draw a picture if you want, but it's just a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we're going to have 6 squared plus b squared equals 9 squared, and then just work that out. So again, you can draw a picture if you like, but that's all it is. So what is that going to be? 36 and 81. So subtract that over, that's going to be 45. Okay, and then square root. Now, actually, that does split up. What multiplies together to give you 45? 9 times 5. And so it'll be 3 square root of 5. When you finish that, like you were already done. Good. All right, again, the rest of unit 7 will end up on the calculator part. Unit 8 is where we started getting into the unit circle and rotating our angles, which is kind of like what the rest of the year is about here. So find a negative coterminal angle for 4 pi over 3. Again, you don't have to draw a picture if you don't want to, but I do think it helps even just to like know what quadrant you're in. So what quadrant is 4/3 in? Third, good. Okay, so it would look like this. I just didn't hear you. Don't fuss at me. So you want a rotation going backwards that's going to land at the same spot. So it's going to be negative, so you're going to go backwards. And how much backwards would you go to land at the same spot? 2 pi over 3. So -2 pi over 3. All right, this is just what quadrant. So that's a pretty simple one. And what quadrant is 2/3? Yeah, second. Good. All right, this is your name that quadrant game. If you want to write out your all students take calculus, you can, or you can just think about where those are positive and negative. If tangent is negative, it can't be quadrant 1. Because if something's negative, it can't be the first one. So we want to know where cosine, which is your x value, is positive, and that would be in your 4th quadrant. All right, reference angle is either pi over 3, pi over 4, or pi over 6. So what is this one? Yeah, the denominator just matches. So pi over 6. All right, here we are going to need to draw a triangle. Both of these are positive, so that means it's going to be in quadrant 1. So triangle in quadrant 1. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that tells you how to label that, 4 over 5. Cotangent is, 4 over 3. Okay, I'm sorry. X over Y. So 4 over 3. I thought I had a typo there, but no, it worked out. 3, 4, 5. We want cosecant. Cosecant is the reciprocal of which function? Sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So it's going to be hypotenuse over opposite. So 5/3. Do you remember how to convert? If you don't, obviously I'm going to tell you, but do you remember what the conversion is? Remember how it's like 12 inches in 1 foot? Do you remember what it is? Oh, good. Pi over 180. So the zeros are going to cancel and you get 5 pi over 18. That doesn't reduce, so that's it. All right, so if you're going to degrees, you're going to do the same thing backwards. You'll multiply by 180 over pi. You kind of can't mess it up because otherwise the pi's won't cancel. And the way I taught it to you was leave the 10 there and do 180 divided by 9. Because if you divide first, it'll make your numbers all smaller. What is 180 divided by 9 going to give us? 20. And then 10 times 20 is 200. Now this next section is all unit circle. I think I'll do these first 3 and then I'll fill in the rest and leave them for you. It's the same thing over and over and over again, okay? You're gonna figure out what quadrant you're in, draw a triangle, and then use it to answer the question. Remember, the triangle is your work, but you won't actually need work on the exam because it's all multiple choice. But I still recommend you draw a triangle. All right, what quadrant is pi over 3 in? First. And what goes across from pi over 3? Square root of 3 over 2. Good, that means the other side is 1/2. Good. So how do you get tangent? Yeah, good. Opposite over adjacent, y over x, sine over cosine. Those all mean the same thing. So however you want to say it. It kind of looks awful, but then what's going to cancel? Yeah, the 2's, you get square root of 3 over 1, which is just square root of 3. Look at that. All right. This one's a negative angle. That means you rotate backwards. So what quadrant is negative pi over 6 going to be in? 4th. Good. So you went backwards pi over 6. So what goes across from pi over 6? 1/2, it'll just be negative. The other side, square root of 3 over 2. Actually, we don't even really need that side though. Sine is the y value. So negative 1/2. And then we'll do one more of these. And again, I'll fill in the rest of them. So you have access to all the answers on Schoology, but you can just draw a triangle and use it to answer the question. What quadrant is 5/4 in? 3rd, good. And so what are the sides for pi over 4? Good. Oh, and actually they'll both also be negative. Good. Cosine is the x value, so it's just negative square root of 2 over 2. Actually, let's find one more that's a circle instead, just so we can kind of do one of each. Because we did a pi over 3, a pi over 6, and a pi over 4. Can you find one that'll be a circle? But yeah, I guess all 3 of these. Let's just do this one. Where is pi? Up, down, left, or right? Left. Good. You guys know the unit circle. Awesome. Tangent is y over x, so that's going to be 0 over -1. And I know that then it's like a crisis. Like, is it 0 or is it undefined? Which do you think? Good, it's 0. If zero is on the denominator, then it's undefined. Okay, and again, I'll go back and fill in the rest of those, but it's more of the same. So I'm not trying to, bore you all to sleep. All right, this one, I'm not going to make you graph anything. Obviously, I can't do that if it's multiple choice. We're going to just state these characteristics. Just like I said, whenever you took this test, it bothers everybody when this 4 is out front. Scribble that out and put +4 at the end. And then we're going to need to factor what's inside of there. So it's going to be -3 sine, and you can kind of like leave a little blank space. And we're going to factor out a 1/3. Okay, you guys have been really good at this. Dividing by a third is the same as multiplying by 3. So you want to imagine kind of that you're distributing a 3 through there is what you're doing. So it's going to be x minus 3 pi. If you're like, that confused me, I can't do that. The only one you won't be able to answer is phase shift. You'll be able to get the rest of it. Okay, that's the only thing that affects. So it's not like hugely important. Let's do amplitude first. What is our amplitude? 3, good. You have to absolute value that because it's a distance. So 3. And then we can, let's do the vertical translation next, because you kind of need these two things to get the range. What's our vertical translation? 4. So imagine this with me. Your center line is at 4. And you go up and down by 3 around it for your wave. So what's the highest point you would get to? 7. And then what's the lowest point you would get to? 1. Perfect. Good. You guys followed me there. So 1 to 7. You can always draw a picture. Remember, this is what I had you do when we drew a picture. If you wanted to do this, you don't have to, but you could. Always just write it down if you need to, right? Period is 2 pi over whatever was in front of the x, which is 1/3. So what would that give you? Yeah, 6 pi, good. You're multiplying by 3. And then phase shift, again, that's the only thing you really need to factor for. You're looking at the factored version. It went right 3 pi. So again, if you feel like you can't factor it, that's the only thing you won't be able to answer. You'll be able to get the rest of it. All right, then we got to the inverse functions, which is the same as what we were doing with these, except backwards. You're looking for the pi over whatever. So this one, that's positive. So we're in the first quadrant. Do you remember these ones that were really picky about which quadrants they were in? And I spent a whole block, we got out our highlighters and highlighted parts of them. That's what this is, all right? Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So what does that mean your other side is? 4. Good. So that's like your work, that inside part. And then you're going to do tangent of that. So tangent is what over what? Opposite over adjacent. So it will be 4/3. A little bit tricky. I want to see if anyone remembers this. It's negative, so it can't be in quadrant 1. Do you remember which other quadrant cosine was allowed to be in? 2. Good. Well remembered. The even ones were in 1 and 2. The odd ones were in 1 and 4. So that means the other side is square root of 3 over 2. And then that means your angle is pi over 3. But that's not your answer. Your answer is how far you rotated. So 2 pi over 3. Good. You guys nailed that unit when we did that. Remember that was the really short test? Like it was only 1 page. That's what that was. This is tricky because that makes you feel like it's a circle. Tangent and cotangent though, and this is going to be in the 4th quadrant. What do we put whenever it's 1, or in this case, -1, but you know. Good. The way you end up with 1 is anything over itself. So it's the square root of 2 over 2 triangle. So your angle is pi over 4, but your answer is going to be what? Because you have to rotate backwards to get to it. Negative pi over 4. Good. I'll just do all of these because I just want to make sure we're good on them. This is positive, so we're in quadrant 1. So actually, that's a pretty easy one. What angle goes across from square root of 3 over 2. Be pi over 3. And that's just your answer because you're in the first quadrant. So actually that one, you almost didn't even need a picture for. This one I would flip. What's your reciprocal of cosecant? Which function? Good. So this is sine inverse 1/2. So here, I'll talk you through it if you feel like you're at the point where you don't really need a triangle. The 1/2 would be the sine, the y part. What angle goes across from 1/2? Pi over 6. Good. All right, we're catching up to current events here. These were all of your identities, the ones that we played Quizlet with. Do you remember? Cosine over sine. Yep, good. You guys like really latched onto this unit. Like most people, like every year, everyone's like, no, I don't want to learn this. And you guys think we're on board. It's good. All right, 1 over secant, reflection, reciprocal of secant. Cosine, good job. Now these were your even and odd. Tangent is odd. So it's going to be negative. The even ones turn positive. This one was hard. It will be something squared. Does anyone remember the one that goes with cotangent? It is cosecant. And then the 90 minus ones, you just add or remove a co. So since this says cosecant, it'll just be secant. Good. I'm going to have us just keep going. We'll go until we get to the calculator one, so we can split it between non-calculator and calculator. Oh, and then here's our equations. What would you do to both sides? Add 1 and then divide by square root of 2. So 1 over square root of 2 is square root of 2 over 2, which, oh my gosh, is on the unit circle. So you need quadrants where cosine is positive. Cosine is the x value. So where is that going to be positive? 1 and 4. Perfect. So for your square root of 2 over 2 triangle, your angle is pi over 4. So your answers are pi over 4. And then you have that second one that's in the fourth quadrant. 7 pi over 4. Good. I think the only thing that's going to be to your detriment is that with multiple choice, like 3 of the answers are wrong. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, actually work out the problem. All right, for this one, you would add over a 1/3. And then you're going to square root. Ooh, what do you have to put when you square root? Plus or minus. This is going to be the bow tie. When you square root a fraction, you just do the numerator and then do the denominator. So what's the square root of 1? 1. And then the square root of 3 is square root of 3. I mean, without a calculator, I don't know what that is. And then what did I tell you to do with that? Just put them over 2. Because then it will be stuff that's on the unit circle. So we're going to draw our little bow tie. Cotangent is x over y. So the 1/2 is the x part, square root of 3 over 2 is the y. And so what's your angle that goes across from your square root of 3 over 2? Yeah, pi over 3. And so what you're going to do is just go around and write all your 4 answers that have the denominator of 3. Cool. All right, solve for all solutions. That's going to have the plus whatever n. But you're going to start solving it the same way. What would you do to both sides for this one? Add 1 and then divide by 2. Oh my gosh, it's 1/2. So I need quadrants where sine is positive. 1 and 2, like little kitty cat ears. So what's our angle for 6? Perfect. Now you are going to have to write this as 2 separate answers. So the first one's pi over 6 plus Now you have to go the whole way around to land there again. So what do you add for the whole way around? 2 pi n. And then the other one's going to be the exact same thing, except it'll be 5 pi over 6 plus 2 pi. All right, and then we'll do the limits, and we'll do our break. These two say limit to where? Infinity. That is who's in charge here. So for this one, who's in charge of the numerator? All right, so numerator is the 2x, denominator 2x squared. So the numerator power is smaller than the denominator. So what is that going to come out to? Just 0. Perfect. And then same thing for this one. You've got 9x squared and 5x squared. Now when it's a tie, coefficients, so 9/5. So that's how the infinity ones work. Now these, you're not approaching infinity, you're approaching an actual number. So you want to try and plug that number in. If you plug in 2 to this, you're going to get -5 over 0. So what does that mean is in the graph? Perfect. So your next question is it from one side or the other? Is it sided? Yes. So it's either up or down. You got a 50-50 shot at this point. It's either positive or negative infinity. Give me a number to the left of 2. 1. We're going to plug 1 in here and just see if it's positive or negative. That's all. So 1 minus 7, -6. 1 minus 2 is -1. That's a positive result. So positive infinity. You're just testing positive or negative. To save you some time, if you try to plug -5 into this, you're going to get 0 over 0. Now that's not an asymptote. What does that mean? A whole. So you have to get something to factor, cancel out. Good. All right. So let's draw our parentheses. It's more an algebra problem than anything else. So this is going to split 3x and 1x. 5 will split 1 and 5. We don't really have a lot of choice there. And then what symbols do you need to get a positive 14? Yep, good. Perfect, because that'll give you a plus 15 minus 1. All right, and then down here, that's a bit of an easier one. It'll just be x and x. 20 will be 5 and 4, and they're both plus. So these cancel. And then what do you plug in to what's left? Yep, -5. Just plug in -5, see what happens. What will that be? -16 over -1. So 16. Oh, wait, did I do that right? Yeah, I think I did. So solving an equation, I get that they are exponential and logarithmic, but it's not any different than solving any other equation. How would you move over the 7? You divide both sides by 7. So, I mean, don't lose your mind entirely. I get that it's pre-calc, but you're going to start out just using your algebra skills. 28 divided by 7 is 4, but you're actually allowed a calculator for this. So if you forgot that, you could do it. Now, the next thing you want to cancel out is E. So what cancels out E? ln. You're going to get 8x equals ln 4. And don't worry, because you have an ln button on your calculator. And then what's your last step? Divide by 8. So what you are going to do is pick up that calculator and type in ln 4 divided by 8. ln is right here if you're looking around for it, kind of next to the 4. And be careful because when you hit ln, it's going to start a parenthesis for you, so you have to make sure that you close it. I got 0.173. All right, cool. Yes, but it'll be multiple choice, so you cannot mess it up. All right, this one, we're kind of stuck. Do you remember the question when you get stuck? I even sang the song. What's the base? All right, so what is the base number? 5 to the 3rd power equals x minus 1. I know you have a calculator, but does anyone know 5 to the 3rd? That's 125. Here, I'll go ahead and write it. And then what's your last step? Add 1, so 126. Cool. You guys again did really well with those equations back when we did that. So that's another like test that's usually really hard for everybody, and you guys did well with it. All right, now this one's a bit harder. When there's a plus sign, that means you multiply these together. Subtraction would mean you divide. I didn't put one on there like that. You guys get that it's exactly like this. Okay, so you're gonna write log base 2, and we're gonna multiply them together. So you're gonna do x times x minus 6. What would that give you? Yeah, x squared minus 6x. Now, what did that achieve? Well, it gave us 1 logarithm instead of 2, so that's a good thing. I'm stuck again. So what's the base? 2 to the 4th power equals all of that. Again, you're allowed a calculator, but does anyone know 2 to the 4th? 16. Good job. Do you guys remember when we did that Pascal's triangle thing and we expanded all those? We went up to 60. Does anyone remember 2 to the 5th? 32. All right, now how do you handle this since there's a squared? Evacuate. You're going to minus over the 16 so that it all equals 0. And then you're going to factor it. So what would that be? 8 and 2? 16, 8 and 2. And then what symbols would we need? Minus 8 plus 2. Cool. So you get x equals 8 and x equals -2, but you can't log a negative. Good. So we're going to get rid of that one and just keep 8. Cool. All right, unit 7. That was all the law of sines, law of cosines stuff. Here's what's going to happen. I'll let this be on the recording. That's fine. You're either going to memorize them and do it, or you're going to guess on these ones. It's only a couple of them. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I'm fine with that. So now this one you'll be fine on. This is a right triangle. It doesn't matter where A and B go, but C has to be the right angle because baby C has to be the hypotenuse. So it doesn't matter where you put the other two, but C has to be that. All right, so A is 32 and C is 11. Find B. So you're going to decide using using opposite, adjacent, and hypotenuse. Is that going to be sine, cosine, or tangent? So what do you think? You're right here. Good. Cosine. This is your point of view. You're going to have cosine of 32. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So that would be B over 11. Did you guys all follow me there? Adjacent, hypotenuse. That's why it was cosine. Okay, just making sure. All right, how would you type that in? 11. Good. Cosine 32. Because what you're doing is multiplying the 11 to the other side. So 11 cosine 32. And again, don't worry about the rounding. It's going to be multiple choice. So you won't be able to mess that up. I'm not going to make 2 of the choices 9.328 and 9.329. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you'll be able to pick the right answer. All right, an oblique triangle just means it's not a right triangle. So just, I told you to just draw them like that because it's not going to be to scale anyway. Angle B is 42. Start at the bottom left. Little a is 13. So I'm going to put that there. And then little c is 16. Find B. What is our angle and side pattern? Side, angle, side. Do you remember if that's law of sines or cosines? If you even remember that, I'll be impressed because this unit was a while ago. It is law of cosines. We'll see how it goes. Again, you're either going to memorize it or you're not. It's fine. You're not going to use this in real life anyway. I should have not said that, but B squared equals, let's see if you remember the rest of it. B squared equals 13 squared plus 16 squared minus 2, 13, 16. You just repeat those. And then it's cosine of the only angle you have, which is 42. Now hold on, before you reach for the calculator, because it's b squared, what you actually want to type in is the square root of all of that. So ready, go. So square root of, you guys did it, and very successfully way back when. I feel like I messed something up there. So if anyone can verify they got the same thing as me. You did? Okay. Well, and you can check to make sure it makes sense. Like my other two sides were 13 and 16. So 10.7 is in the ballpark. If I got like 53, do you get what I'm saying? Like it's going to have to be sort of close, but somebody got the same thing? I did? Okay. Now you don't have to store that and find anything else. That's the only thing I asked you for. Okay, we're going to do one more of those. So draw yourself a triangle that looks like any old thing. It doesn't matter. A is 72. So again, start at the bottom left. C is 20. So then go to the bottom right. And baby B is 8. So what angle side pattern is that one? Yeah, angle side angle, which is law of sines. Now it says to find C. C is this one. You still need to find this angle though, because to do law of sines, you need a side across from an angle, but we can get that without doing any work. What are you going to do to get that third angle? Yeah, just do 180 minus the other two. 88. Oh, that's weird that it's 88 and then that side is 8. Kind of wish it wasn't like that, but anyway. So you're going to do 8 over sine of 88, weirdly, equals, and then what will you put on the other side? It says find baby C. Perfect. You remember this, that's awesome. And then you're gonna have to remember how to type it, but you're gonna cross multiply and divide. So what you're gonna type is 8 sine 20 divided by sine 88. And just be careful because when you hit the sine button, it's gonna start a parenthesis. So you have to remember to close it. Because if you don't close it, it will sign the whole thing that you typed. I got a kind of small number. That's what you got to, okay. That must be, oh, well, actually it's across from the 20 degrees. So that makes sense. That would be the smallest one. All right, and then these last two are going to be right triangles. So you are standing 200 meters away from a building that's 135 meters tall. So where would the 200 go? It's on the bottom. And the building is 135 meters tall, so that's going to be the opposite, the vertical part. And you're being asked for the angle. I watched you do this. Maybe you're like done with the problem. Hold on for the rest of us. Sine, cosine, or tangent? Tangent? So tangent of x equals 135 over 200. And then how do you type it in? Yeah, inverse tangent, which would be second tangent. Cool. And then one more. I didn't hear any complaining, so I'm assuming at least somebody got that. All right, a ladder is leaning against a building. The ladder is 18 feet long. So which side is the 18? Hypotenuse, that's the ladder. Kind of just have to use your imagination. It touches 13 feet up the side of the building. So 13 goes there. And then we want our angle. So sine, cosine, or tangent? Sine. And so you're going to type second sine 13 over 18. Okay, thank you for confirmation.